assumiu a responsabilidade.
Sob ordens do lobo no Urzikstan.
Alex está em campo, procurando os químicos roubados.
Bom, você vai precisar da Força de Libertação. Bota ele em contato com o comando.
Conhece a comandante Karim?
A gente se conhece. Usa o meu nome. Ou vão matar ele.
Qual é a mensagem que você traz do Capitão Price?
Comandante Karim? Sou o Alex.
Eu tô ouvindo, Alex.
Isso é confidencial.
Vamos, primos. Se preparem.
Há 48 horas, terroristas roubaram um carregamento de gás russo.
Só a Alcatala faria isso.
Os russos não fazem distinção entre Alcatala e o seu povo.
Eu não faço distinção entre a Alcatala e o exército russo. São ambos terroristas. Nunca usaríamos esses venenos.
Nos ajude antes de...
Antes do quê? De ir pra Europa? Estados Unidos? Vivemos isso dia a dia.
Comandante, temos que ir logo. Quem é esse?
Alex, esse é o meu irmão e tenente, Hadir.
Você é da CIA?
Ele trabalha com o Capitão Price.
Então você mata russos, né?
Tenho amigos que podem nos ajudar. Mas sua irmã decide o que vem depois.
Claro. A minha irmã tá no comando. E o exército russo ainda tá aqui.
Essa ocupação tem que acabar. A gente concorda com isso, não é? Os homens do General Barkov controlam a cidade. A gente quer mudar isso.
Não temos mísseis, mas a gente dá um jeito.
Se você ficar, a gente ajuda. Mas pra ficar, tem que lutar.
Então vamos lutar.
Bem-vindo ao Urzikstan, Alex.
Me segue. Esses túneis são nossa salvação. Tropas russas estarão na cidade hoje. Vamos emboscá-los.
Como?
Explosivos.
Isso vai chamar a atenção deles.
E distrair a segurança na base russa, deixando ela vulnerável ao nosso ataque.
Agora vamos com tudo.
Se a gente continuar assim, não vai acabar bem. Se preparem para o ataque à base.
Fique bem. Alex, pegue esses explosivos. C4 com detonador remoto.
Valeu.
Cuide da minha irmã. Boa sorte.
Você também.
Halem.
Habsara. Yala. Amerki.
Zalameikafu. Alex, põe isso aqui.
Como é que eu tô?
Vai servir. Tarik, qual a situação?
Tem russos lá fora. Eles vão atirar se virem suas armas.
Se atirarem, nosso plano vai por água abaixo. Alex, não vacila com essa arma. Esconde ela dos russos. Esconde a arma. Se virem, te matam. Me segue.
Very early. It's another thing, though, when you don't. But look, Tom, we saw this earlier already. Tom was trying to play this ladder. You know, he decided to come out. He was able to get the trade, but was not expecting Clown to already be up here, guaranteed. So a really good play and down from Clown to be able to get that. That's a huge
leaderboard even further just in 2 maps. You want to really solidify your standings within the first 3. So, but those incoming Semtexes, you called it, Dandro, such a great lethal to utilize. But as soon as you peek, it's decimated. This is not what you want to have happen. And now the precision airstrike to kind of finish up that full Clown is down bad.
Clown is down indeed. What a great alliteration to the name. Lauder gonna come out here, try and make the ego challenge. And Tommy, this has been a back and forth between the Minnesota Rocker and Team Drifts, as it looks like now Drifts, the only one left alive, has the cash. If he can hit a buyback, could get both teammates back in, but he's getting tagged up, and that's gonna be the end of game number 2 for Team Drifts. Looks like some deep Gorenko shots gonna be able to bring them out. That awning not enough to keep them there, but look at NYSL playing SEAL Team 6. Knight sitting currently at 7 kills, top of the leaderboard, tied alongside teammate Z Smith. So at least 14 kills for NYSL so far. They're heating up, Tiff, and I kind of like it.
Hey, I love the aggression very casually. You know TBE is over here, and they're the ones throwing the Semtexes in, getting a good crack right there. Just going in. They had 22 eliminations in map 1. They're already starting it off so strong with 16. Unfortunately, Knight is going to go down, but Aiden coming in, just going out and making sure they're able to clean it up, throwing down some suppression, but now incoming Semtexes are going to wreak a little bit of havoc. They're just trying to get the res off on Knight. No one really has gas masks, but plenty of stims available and a good PDS grab for them. Can Aiden survive this moment?
This last second stim from Aiden keeps him alive. You saw him peek that corner and somebody was just sitting there ready to get the shots in, but he's able just to get that stim, get out of dodge, regroup with the team. They're gonna have to make a little bit of gas plays. Thankfully, Aiden, they do have the PDS. They have multiple stims, so I kind of like this. They know where the zone's going. They're gonna take the super deep wrap here and drop the PDS a little bit early so that they can play it up. They can continue making their way through. There is a buy as well. They can grab anything else that they do need. Not a lot of cash though on hand, so it doesn't look like that's going to be the strat, but they can make this wide wrap. As we see Knights here, he's going to drop the PA. Maybe can make something happen, catch someone out who's not suspecting this, but I love this rotation right now.
Look, they're holding the, just the edge of this area, and that rotation was so clean. I was a little worried. Knight doesn't have any plates available to them, and is able to pick up one. There's some people in this building. I'm excited to see what they can do. Aiden going to fall, but oh no, Z-Smith as well. This is all going to be on Knight's hands.
All on Knight's hands, and there's not many people left in this lobby. You can see there are 5 players across 4 teams, so it's a lot of solos. And that one duo that's up, it is Zepti and Attract. Zepti is down. I don't think Attract is going to try and go for that res. Obviously wants to try and play his life knowing that it's, you know, just a bunch of solos. It's okay. I can kind of play this. Zepti did go down though with 10 kills. So huge stuff coming out of this squad. But look at that leaderboard, Tiff. Minnesota Rocker currently at the top. We saw them do some insane things all game long as Attract gets what, 1 but 2 off of the top rope. And this is why you wanted to pick this guy up 1v1, Tiff. Let's see, can Attract close this one out to give them what they need?
Oh, he can, Dandro! Look at that! He just sent that man to the Shadow Realm. I cannot believe it. He came in as a last-minute sub, and look at the joy on his face right now, clutching up for FaZe Blue's team here in map number 2.
21 kills and the dub. 42 points in map number 2. That's the type of game you need early on. You know, we saw this squad doing pretty well in map number 1, but it seems like they figured it out. They played it correctly. That was some insane stuff, and I gotta give some huge props to Attract. You have some teams in here who are set trios who've been playing forever. They know each other like the back of their hand, and Attract just said, you know what? I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna do what I do best, and that is fry.
Fry indeed. Let's run it back. A nice double kill and team wipe on Arrays and Co. before he sets the last player in his sights. Breaks out that Gorenko and chows the rooftop fight right here. You are no match for Attract. And, you know, Dandro, this team has never played competitively together, and clearly that is not an issue here today.
Yeah, I mean, to give this team a lot of credit, I know each one of these players is kind of one of those players that they've played on a large number of different teams, right? And that kind of is where this experience comes in. It's just another day in the office for each of them, right? I've seen Blue play on a number of trios, I've seen Zepti play on a number of trios, and I've seen Attract play on a number of trios. Always happy to play with whoever they can get, and it's kind of nice because you just learn that you got to play your role. You got to do what you got to do, and at the end of the day, you're going to find some success there. So I'm glad that this team is kind of turning up right now, and I don't know, maybe hopefully they can keep that momentum moving on to the last couple of games and not just a you know, kind of one hit wonder.
I'm sure they're going to be coming back swinging, carrying that momentum into map number 3. But let's throw it back to the desk so everyone can break down all the action we just witnessed.
Hey, appreciate you, Spider Tiff. Dandro, great calls for game 2. And game 2 was incredible. So many good moments and questionable calls. We're going to walk through all of that. But Goja, pass it to you first, brother. An incredible ending for Attract.
There's so many different teams I want to highlight, and I'm sure we'll get a chance to see some of Attract's crazy plays. So I'll kind of wait for it because it's the most disgusting thing I've seen on main broadcast in a while. Shout out to Veiled, Sage, and Clip for, of course, taking map number 1. They had a decent start here in map number 2, but the aggressive start sometimes doesn't always pay off.
Yep. Yeah, it's you got to find that balance, right, between aggression that can turn into recklessness, and I think that's the big balance when it comes to Fortune's Keep, because sometimes you want to get in, you just want to shoot, you want to gun down your opponents, but sometimes you have to take your a rest. And a team that was doing that I was pretty surprised to see, Dream, was actually Aiden's team, right? Aiden's team representing New York Subliners. At one point, we switched over to them. They're literally walking, all three of them on the edge of the map, wanting to be sneaky beavers, like Bucket likes to say.
Yeah, and they also made that gas play where they worked, because they had the PDS, so they worked around and played that deep wrap, playing the circle and playing for positioning. It was unfortunate that they didn't have plates in their favor, but in the end, it was a track that repositioned himself and took that high ground. And of course, having that sniper in hand really made it easy. But you see, even here in town, where it's kind of like, not 100% late keep, but it's that area that's very popular because you can take the high ground. You can get away inside some of these buildings, but how amazing was it that Attract was able to do just that? And then, of course, having the Gorenko in hand and playing it so patiently.
So nasty.
And that was just insane.
So a 21 total kills, a 42-41 Mathis hard kind of game. And honestly, you know, Goj, when it comes to FaZe Blue and his team Attract and Septi, that's their second decent game. Game one wasn't bad for them either. They picked up plenty of elims. They also had a decent placing. So that's two back-to-back games now where they've, sort of popped off.
No, I was going to bring up the exact same point. They had 23.6 points or so, I believe, going into that map. They were situated in about 4th. They were sitting pretty after map number 1. And they said, hey, let's go ahead and push our way up into potentially already qualifying. I mean, you can think back to our scores from last semifinals, right? You're looking at somewhere around the neighborhood of 80 or so, kind of being that relegation point. I mean, they're going to be sitting at 65 already after 2 maps. That was a 42-point game. A huge pickup, of course, Attract coming in for Invader. But overall, all 3 of these players can certainly play on their own well. Together, things seem to be working.
That's right, and for New York Subliners too, that's 2 games back-to-back that have been pretty decent, despite them not getting first place. We talked about that earlier before we, of course, started even game 1, Goj and Dream, where we were stating that, you know, you don't need to get the victory to end up in first place, and the goal today is top 8, right? That's where we want to be, or that's where the teams want to be, rather, and I think for a lot of these teams are being very consistent. I want to go to one of the questionable plays, though, Dream, and that was, I believe, a little bit early on when Nadia's team flanked. Ended up separating. He was by himself. Meanwhile, Nadia and Intex were, kind of doing their own thing. They do fall, and it's actually Godson that flanked was by himself because he ended up staying alive long enough, I think, to get his teammates back into play. But I question, is there value in splitting from your team? Dream, we talked about being an anchor earlier.
Yeah, because that player can play their life, and they're on the other side because, you know, you do get a little bit of a ping, and they're not in the vicinity of essentially the players that wiped their teammates. So that is kind of part of that 2-in-1 anchor spot where that player values their life. They stay alive. We saw Slack do it earlier. We've seen Brawleth do it. We've seen even Attract do it. Like, we've seen multiple players have that sniper support where they can play their life. So having that ability to be able to push out and get those extra eliminations is kind of like a high risk, high reward type of thing. But that's where we see teams that don't necessarily place high, but they still have the kills in their favor. So it's just one of those situational plays that you as a squad need to decide, is it worth it or is it?
Even Clown, to highlight him, he was playing his life incredibly well at a certain point until he unfortunately ended up running into, I believe, Noobs it was, who took him down. I do think we have results, though, Goj. Let's take a look at our standings and see what our top 10 is looking like.
Well, quite unsurprisingly, NYSL at the very top, 73.8 points after 2 maps. Team FaZe Blue, as suspected, around 65. And then Team Unveiled still hanging on, 42.8 right into the mid.
Take it away.
You see where heavily favored towards the bottom half of the map, towards the town side. A lot of the eliminations are working around in that building. And of course, if you have solos pushing, or depending how the teams are playing, it's an easy spot to pick up kills and also survive and get out fast as well. And a little bit of a surprise here that we don't see too many eliminations towards that keep area, but you do see it still towards the gatehouse side and the circle buildings. Like, if you've noticed on both both sides. I mean, we kind of saw that too, where Cloud was holding that area. We see that same type of building, the tower building over by Church. It's just it's one of those spots that's high ground, but the downside of it, of course, is those Semtex we kind of saw being utilized. But depending on where you get eliminated, I feel like I was going to kind of point that out earlier with the Semtexes. If you notice that those buildings, they don't have the high ground, excuse me, they don't have any type of protection above them. So to get those players out of those spots, the Semtexes, that's really where they come in handy. So you can take those teams off that high ground, those high ground positions, and I would imagine that we see maybe more teams get eliminated in that spot.
Well, we'll see, right? Game 3 is coming up, and of course, we have to bring in our two wonderful casters, SpiderTip as well as Dantro. You're doing a wonderful job. 2 games down, heading into Game 3. We saw our standings. I'm sure that's going to give you both a lot to talk about. So without further ado, SpiderTip, Dantro, take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Taylor. Let's get ready to go. It's game number 3. Tiff, I can't tell if it's all the caffeine I've had today or just watching Tract hit that shot to end game number 2, but I am shaking with anticipation to see what we got going on here. I mean, it's just been absolutely wild these first 2 games we've been able to watch.
Yeah, I think absolutely wild is a great way to put it, considering there's so much chaos. You know that Fortune's Keep is one of my favorite game modes. I will be dropping in all day, every day, but these lobbies are an entirely another level, which I'm so glad to be on the desk for and not actually in on it. But we were talking about a lot of the teams, but one of the teams we haven't mentioned is, let's talk more about Optic Texas. So that Z-Laner, Destroy and Co. And Destroy had his birthday yesterday. They're currently sitting in 4th place after 2 maps, and you know, they've been looking pretty clean.
I mean, listen, I think it's about time Optic Texas put up a competitive Warzone roster. I'm just going to say it, okay? I'm glad that we have Z-Laner in here alongside, obviously, Destroy. They are 2 extremely talented Warzone players, and obviously adding in Oakley Boy, who's kind of been this sleeper sort of third, you know, is a great addition. Obviously, Z-Laner and Oak has played a ton together. It just kind of makes sense when you're slotting in that team, and obviously they're in 4th right now. They've had 2 pretty decent games from map number 1 and map number 2. But let's get ready, Tiff. We're headed on in. It's map number 3. We're kicking it off with none other than the winners of map 2.